Hey, hi, hello, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to go through my whole reading journal and do a little flip through, kind of explain what I do, the types of pages I have, and just go through it, and maybe you'll get some inspiration for your own or for your one for next year, or we're like 3 months into the year, but it's as good a time as any. At least it started to get filled out a little bit, so you can kind of see the thought process of like what pages were designated for. I did do one of these last year for my reading journal, and it was really fun to do, but this year I changed a lot about what I do with it. So I think it'll be fun to kind of see how that has evolved. So let's get into it. All right, here's this year's reading journal. For this year, I decided to go with like a dark green. Flipping open to the first page, we have star and spice rating. And I definitely kind of figured the rating systems out a little bit more, like into detail of what it takes to give me these types of ratings. I think in my previous one, it was kind of my first time like writing that out. I had it in my head, but I didn't have it written out. And when I did, it just wasn't really exactly how I think about it. So I think I've got it figured out a little bit better now. I'm sorry if you hear my cat eating in the background. He's very food motivated. I can't help it. Next page is my 2026 stats and overview. So I'll fill this out at the end of the year when like Goodreads kind of gives its overview. I did this page is the same that I did in 2025, but then I also added this page as well. I think overall I determined that in last year's journal, I did very minimal like statistic keeping kind of per se, and left a lot of room for like writing out my thoughts for each book. But I realized doing that, like there were just some books that I just didn't really know exactly what to say or how to articulate it. Like even for a book I really enjoyed, I found it kind of being repetitive, like, oh, I just loved their relationship and blah, blah, blah. And it just felt like it was getting repetitive, and that's a me thing. Sometimes I'm just not good at articulating that. I'm not a writer or a writing person at all. I hated writing papers in school. So that's definitely a me thing. I'm definitely more on the creative side and like seeing the statistics of things a little bit more. So I definitely think I did a little bit more of those, and you'll see, and that's why I kind of switched it up majorly for this year's. So yeah, just going through this, like it'll say how many books I read, how many pages, and the average length. And then Goodreads always tells you your longest and shortest books that you read throughout the year, and then your average like star rating. And then I'll put my top 5 books. These will be like the 4, and then this one will have my the top 5, which is going to be interesting because I did my top 25 of 2025 video, and that was really hard to determine. So solidifying that top 5 I think is going to be really hard. Next is the book bingo. In my previous one, I did 1 page, and I ended up like filling it very quickly within the first like few months of the year. So this year I wanted to do 2 pages, have a little more variety going on. And I also am going to write down like what book gave that like bingo card to it, whatever, you know what I mean? Like I look back on the other one from last year and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, I did all of them. But it's kind of fun to see like what book actually marked off that square. Next page is books read. I have actually 2 pages of this. This one didn't really change very much. I'm gonna color in based on the star rating I gave. as you can see, we are into the month of March already, and I have not had a 5-star, which doesn't seem detrimental, but I would really like to read a 5-star. So if anyone has any recommendations for a 5-star read, please leave a comment, because I'm kind of struggling right now. Another thing I carried into this one is the book series tracker, which I really, really like. I'm very bad at finishing series, as you can tell. It's kind of one of my goals. It was one of my goals last year. It's still another goal that I want, and I think it's very nice to have that visual. So yeah, and I have 2 spreads of this. Obviously this one, thankfully, I have not had to carry over into it, but anytime I start a series, it's gonna have to get added. And there's a few that like I haven't even started, but the series are on my radar. So I would like to, like all of these I own. Same with all of these. But yeah, definitely a goal is to actually finish series. It's just something that I not really struggle with, but it's just how my brain is. Like I'm not one that's able to just read every single book back to back to back. I need a little something different in between. I don't know why. It's just how it is. Another thing I carried in, both of these are from the last year, my DNF graveyard, and then my A to Z challenge. I had this last year, but I kind of just switched up how the page looks a little bit more. I kind of like the little notebook aspect of it. It was cute. Anticipated releases. This was one that I did last year, and I just wanted to reimagine how the spread looked this year. Just because I know like it's very common for like May, March, like the spring, for authors to release books, and not as common in the second half of the year. And then I think the last spread, like I was just kind of running out of space for the amount that I allotted. So, and then these are 2 that I carried over as well, just again reimagined them. So I've got my monthly faves, which I have not even filled out. I have my HP Sprocket printer, and I'm gonna print out a cover of each of my top book for each month and put them in here. And I have not even determined from January and February what my top book is gonna be yet for those. And then just a visual graph tracker of how many books I read each month. Hall of Fame, these are going to be 5-star reads. So again, I'm gonna print out the covers of them. But like I said earlier, I have not had a 5-star read yet this year. So I have not been able to fill this out at all. I know I made a whole video on this, and I kind of showed the spread a little bit in this video, but here's just another visual of my 26 books I want to read in 2026. I'm not going to go into too much detail on these. Like, it is what it is. I did a whole video on them, so if you would like to know more about the logic behind those, you can go watch that video. And then this is something different that I wanted to do this year. So in my last year's journal, I did like a January, and then I had kind of something like this, and I would write the book and like the date that I read it, started and finished it, and then the rating. And then each page after that was like more specific to the book. Like I had the cover, some more statistics, and then I would write my thoughts on it. So that is what really changed the most in this one. So for this year, I'm gonna go through, and I have every month has a whole spread like this, and I'm gonna use my highlighters. And like this is kind of I got inspiration from the Fable app. They have statistics where they show you, there'll be little icons of the book on every day that you read. So I really liked that, and I wanted to carry that into my reading journal. So I have decided to highlight when I read them and then track which books, and you can kind of see. So then I just keep continuing with every month. So I have January, February, and I did something a little different for each month. Like I said, I wanted to make it a little more creative and colorful this year and a little less on the, I don't know how you want to say it, on the side of like, I feel like it was becoming a chore almost to write all of my thoughts for each book last year. So I really wanted to make this more of a creative outlet and not something that I felt like was homework almost, because I thought that it was not going to be like that. I enjoyed it in the beginning, but I realized towards the end of the year that it was just becoming a pain in my butt and I didn't want to do it. And that's not really how I wanted it, my reading journal, to feel. So it definitely got more of a creative side to this year's. So then I still like seeing the stats for each book. So I decided to shrink that down a little and do like a whole spread for multiple. So I still print them out, still write all of the stats, the number of pages, when I read them, how I, like the version that I read them, where it's physical, ebook, or audio, and like the star rating and spice rating if there is one. But I did not do anything with writing my thoughts about them. This is strictly just like stats of them. So what you'll notice is I did a whole bunch of these. So I have these all kind of planned out, kind of based on roughly the amount of books that I was averaging reading. Then we get to more of another creative side after this. So I really liked seeing on Pinterest, I would see people doing like almost a collage in their reading journal that's based on like the aesthetic or the vibe or like certain aspects of each book, and I really liked that. So I decided I wanted to do that as well, and that's where like more of that creative side is coming in. Like I said, I've only done 2 of these so far, but they're both very different in their own aspects. So I think I'm kind of just doing them as I please. It's not for every single book I've read. It's just for ones either that I really liked or just ones that I had a good visual aesthetic to it. Like Love and Luck, I rated this at 2.5 stars, but I still did a spread for it just because like there were so many little things that went into it where I could definitely pick out and visualize something, you know. Like there's just some books that I can't visualize the aesthetic as much, and then others I'm like, oh well, he liked music and he played football and she played soccer and they went to Ireland and they traveled and there was heartbreak involved, you know, like just little things like that. This one I did kind of want to write a little bit, but like this one, for a photo finish, I did not write any of my thoughts, but I just had a huge visual aesthetic going in my head, and it was just like my Pinterest was just feeding into that and knowing exactly what I was thinking. So, you know, I just did more pictures and the collage for this one, and I didn't write anything. So far, I'm really liking the more creative aspect to it for sure. And it doesn't feel like it has to be a chore. Another thing is that like I don't always end up going to like filling out my reading journal right after I read them, and I found that to be a problem for last year's, because if I didn't immediately fill it out, I would have no idea what to write for my thoughts sometimes, and I would just like forget. And then that's when it really felt like it was like homework almost, because I would just space it out. So, like I said, please comment down below any 5-star reads that you've had recently or that you recommend, because I'm really seeking out some right now. So comment down below your suggestions. I hope that this gave you some inspiration for your own, or you just wanted to see how some people do their reading journal, and I hope you enjoyed the video. We'll see you next time.